What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Coffee with the Dudes. Have another solo podcast today. And the last time I had a solo podcast, I had just left, or I was about to leave for France. And so Marissa and I, we were in France for about 10 days. And so we went to Paris, we went to Clisson, which is central France, for our rock festival. And then we finished in Bordeaux. So that's like a big wine region. We love our wine. And so I wanted to start this podcast just like an update because the podcast that I previously recorded a few weeks ago, it was all around traveling, right? It's like what to do while traveling, some of the big tips that ChatGPT has and that are like more science based around what you should be doing if you want to stay in good shape, right? And like I had mentioned on that, my goal was just to have fun, right? I knew we were going to get a lot of steps in, which we did. We averaged over 15,000 steps a day, which is absolutely crazy. My feet actually hurt a handful of those days because it's just so many steps, especially at the festival, just walking around the grounds all day, going back to the campground and then back to the festival multiple times. Like it was really, really easy to get 17,000, 18,000. I think our biggest day was 23,000 steps, which is definitely one of my top days I've ever had. And I stayed on true with like what I had mentioned. I did not, I didn't exercise because we just worked out, or we did took so many steps. There's a workout at some of the concerts, like just, jumping up and down, having fun. And then I hydrated, like we needed to hydrate. It was a huge heat wave that went through Europe. It was 100 degrees for or more for over half of our trip, and that's a humid heat as opposed to the dry heat that we're used to here in Arizona. So it's definitely a change, and we were like sweating and sweating and sweating, like just being outside. And so we were trying to drink as much water as we possibly could. And as far as other things went, so food, like we ate really good food. We also at the festival wasn't as good, but we tried to like incorporate good stuff. And we drank some fucking wine. Like we had fun, and that's the big thing. And now we've come back and we're getting back into the normal routine. It's definitely hard when you come back from a trip like that. You want to be back doing like on vacation. It's hard to get back into the swing of work, but I think the hardest thing is like getting back into the time zone, where we were 9 hours ahead and now we come 9 hours back. And it's taken me like, I've been like some of the nights falling asleep at like 6, 7 p.m. Last night I was sleeping at 7 p.m. and luckily got to like 5:30. I got like, geez, what is that? 10 and a half hours of sleep. And so I'm hoping that, after 4 days now, I'm back in the groove, feeling good. We're going to be getting our first workout in. Honestly, we're exhausted. Like just even going on some walks the first few days, I think my clock was just so off that just exhausted. And so now getting back in this one, getting a workout in, feeling good. Got a great like hour-long walk in this morning. Getting back into the food here. And so it feels good to be back. And what I wanted to talk about today, just in the name of what I have been dealing with and what anybody who travels deals with, even if you go from West Coast to East Coast, 3 hour times difference, it doesn't feel like much, but it can really mess up your body clock and just make you feel out of whack, can throw off your sleep, can throw off a lot of stuff. And even I like down here in Arizona, we don't have a daylight savings time, but I remember being in Minnesota, and when you fall back and when you go forward for daylight savings time, it affects you a lot more than you would ever think an hour would. And so I wanted to go through and see what some of the big like science backed tips are out there around jet lag and like adjusting to a schedule, like anything that we can do, that I can do, that you guys who are maybe traveling this year, traveling in the future, can do to help yourself out and reducing the jet lag. This is all based on, it says, research in sleep medicine and circadian biology. And I'll just go through each of these things today. So number one is to shift your sleep schedule before you leave. And I've never thought about this, but it is a very, very good thing. Actually, now that I do think about it, I have done this sometimes when traveling like shorter distances. So across the US, you're an hour, 2 hours. Sometimes when you just go for a weekend, like if I go to Minnesota for a weekend, it's not a bad idea just to continue on with the schedule of where I'm at, which would be, for if I wake up at 5:45 a.m. here, it'd be 7:45 a.m. there, right? And then like going to bed, a little bit later as well. And so that can just like make it so that you come back and it's like you never lost a step. You're not going to deal with that. Now, it is a lot harder when traveling longer distances, but ChatGPT says that like if you're traveling 5, 6 time zones ahead, move your bed and wake time up by 30 to 60 minutes each day for 2 to 4 days before your departure. So traveling east, go to bed earlier, traveling west, stay up a little bit later. And that makes a lot of sense. Like if you're even getting a little bit closer, like let's say you're going to France like we did here, 9 hours forward, like kind of shifting your schedule even like 3 or 4 hours closer is going to make that first day a lot better. We've always done like depending on when we leave, we kind of did it differently this time to where we had an early flight. We left at 8 a.m., which is tough because then we got in at 8 a.m. in France. And now we did not sleep very well or at all. Didn't sleep at all on the plane because we'd just gotten up. And so then we were having to get through a whole day in France just on adrenaline, which is not an approach that I recommend. Now we got through, I don't think we got like too late in the day, but it was definitely a hard day where you're just like super sleep deprived. You just feel like drunk without even drinking, basically. But a lot of times what we try to do when we're going that way, when we're going like 8, 9, 10 hours away forward, is we'll try to have a late flight. So leave at like 9 p.m. this time, and then you're tired, right? And it's a lot easier to sleep on the plane. And then you can get that hours of sleep and you get in around that same time. And so then it's a lot easier to incorporate or like really get into the time zone that you're going into. But this is a good tip here of just like adjusting or shifting your sleep schedule before you leave. The next one says to use light to reset your body clock. So this is good as well. Like they say with like sunlight is a huge relation to your sleep schedule, to your circadian rhythm. And it's so like if you're traveling east, get bright sunlight in the morning at your destination and avoid bright light in the evening. Traveling west, get more light in the late afternoon, evening, and don't rush to morning light. So even just a 20 to 30 minute walk outside is enough to help your brain begin adjusting. So this is a really, really good one that I didn't think about. And something that I try to do every morning is I start with a walk, right? And this is like, it's a huge thing, can help with your sleep at night when you're getting that sunlight first thing in the morning. And so this just kind of goes on to that. Number 3, this is a huge one that I always try to do, stay hydrated. So one thing I will say, this has a caveat of especially on flights, which I know is true. I don't know if any of you can relate to this. I try to not do that as much just because I find if I'm drinking tons and tons of stuff, especially before a flight, then I'm gonna have to get up a bunch of times and it's like a pain in the ass because it's never ideal, in my opinion, to be going to the bathroom a ton on flights. I try to minimize that as much as possible. But in the sense of helping your sleep schedule, helping you not have as much jet lag, I can see how it would be a huge thing. It says here, airplane cabins are very dry and dehydration can worsen fatigue, headaches, feeling of jet lag. So try to drink water consistently throughout your flight. I try to like sip water on the flight and drink a decent amount, but not a ton. It says limit excessive alcohol. Obviously, that's going to disrupt your sleep and contribute to dehydration. Can't say I always listen to that, especially on those long flights. And then go easy on caffeine during your flight. So it says it won't, hydration is not going to eliminate jet lag, but it can definitely help reduce some of those symptoms, which makes a lot of sense. And this is a good one. I mean, just like always, it's always a good thing to stay hydrated. It's something I always try to focus on. I sometimes probably overdo it, but I do live in a very hot climate here in Arizona. So it is even more important at this time of year where we're consistently in the hundreds, 110, to be drinking a lot of water. But when it comes to jet lag, definitely a huge thing. And this right here is water with Noon. I don't know if anybody drinks Noon. I drink Noon and Element. Have a little bit at the house. It helps a lot too with your hydration. So if you bring that along, that's a huge thing that we did on this trip. That was super helpful, especially with how hot and humid it was over in France. We brought multiple sleeves of Noon, and we were drinking it during the festival a lot more. We were drinking it, trying to do that like every morning to get a good hydration in. Now we got a few more. So number 4 tip on reducing jet lag is to take melatonin at the right time. So I've never thought to do this, but I can see how it could be very beneficial. So it can help your body adjust to new time zone, particularly eastbound travel. So general guidance, a low dose, about zero point 0.5 to 3 milligrams, taken 30 to 60 minutes for your target bedtime at your destination is often sufficient. It's most effective when combined with proper light exposure. So like taking that use of light to help your body clock. And if you have a medical condition, take other medications, or unsure if it's appropriate for you, check with your healthcare provider first. Obviously, a good idea there. But this is something I haven't taken melatonin in a long time, and it could be. I might actually try this at the next trip that we have. So we go to Croatia in September, and so this I might try. I used to take melatonin a lot because I had sleep trouble, and at a certain point, it's one of those same things, just like any medication, is that you need more of it to get the feeling. And I just felt like at a certain point it was causing me issues in that sense, and so I stopped taking it. But taking some while traveling, I could see how that could be a very, very good thing to help you get acclimated with that new time zone. And so this is something I am going to try on my next trip for sure. And then we got 2 more here. So number 5, adapt to local time immediately. So this is something that I definitely try to do when traveling. So as soon as you board, or at least once you land, start acting like you're already in the destination time zone. So eat meals on the local schedule, stay awake until a reasonable local bedtime, avoid long naps, keep them to 20 to 30 minutes if you need them. And the sooner you sleep, meals, activity align with the new time zone, your body clock will adjust too. So this is a very, very good one. This is what I was talking about with, when we get in, we got it at 8 a.m. in Paris, and we had that whole day, and we got as late as we could. I can't remember. It just feels like such a long time ago where we got to, but we tried to get to like 8, 9 p.m. if we could, just to start to just get our bodies into that new time zone, which can be so hard to do. When you're shifting such a large amount, it's even after a night, 2 nights, your body is going to still feel like you're in the other time zone. And so this is a really, really good tip. And this is why it's nice to have a later flight, in my opinion. This all depends on how long your flight is, how many connections there are. But like based on like kind of what we like to do, having a later flight, 7, 8, 9, 10 p.m. when going that far of a distance generally gets you in, afternoon, evening. And it's a lot easier, especially if you can sleep on the flight, where you're adapting a lot quicker. And it's like you have a shorter period of time to get to bed, as opposed to like getting in early in the morning and having to stay awake for 10 hours, 12 hours, 14 hours, to make sure that you're on the new time zone. And then lastly, this is a bonus tip. It says exercise at the right time. So a light workout or brisk walk during daylight hours can improve the alertness and reinforce your new schedule. Avoid intense exercise within a couple of hours before bedtime. So yeah, it says it's relating to my trip. It says for your upcoming trip from Phoenix to France, about a 9-hour time difference, combining morning sunlight, a properly timed low dose melatonin supplement, staying hydrated, and immediately following the local schedule give you best chance of minimizing jet lag. So this is a good tip there. And again, hopefully this has been helpful. This is actually really helpful for me. I think what I'm going to do, because the shifting your schedule, or shifting your schedule before you leave or, while you're there, it's one of those things that's a lot easier said than done. I've found to where, for example, I'm going to Wisconsin salmon fishing here in a few weeks, and they're 2 hours ahead, right? So, like, if I were to do this, it would be, shifting my schedule accordingly. But we are salmon fishing, which requires you to like be on the boat at 3 a.m. So it's just not even possible, right? That's just that shifting of schedule where I'm getting up at 7:45 instead of 5:45, and like just staying on my same Phoenix schedule is just not going to work, right? And a lot of times, when you're traveling and you're meeting with people and maybe like going to certain things, it's going to be harder to do those kind of things. But in certain settings, when it does work, I can see how that can be very beneficial. Something I'm definitely going to try going forward is the melatonin to try to get me adapted. Because a lot of these I'm doing, staying hydrated. Now, again, not as much on flights. I probably could be better at that one. But again, I just don't like having to get up all the time on the flight and go to the bathroom. I don't think that's ideal. And so, like, I think there's a middle ground there where you can stay relatively hydrated or like somewhat hydrated, but also you're not constantly getting up and going to the bathroom. And so, good one here. I'll recap them all. So, number one, shift your sleep schedule before you leave. Number two, use light to reset your body clock. Number three, staying hydrated, especially on flights. Number four, take melatonin at the right time. Number four, then number five, adapt to the local time immediately. Hit the ground running, start acting like you're there, eat at the right time, go to bed at the normal time, and then bonus tip, exercise at the right time. So hopefully it's been helpful. Use this on your next trip, whether it's a short trip, long trip. Let me know how it works for you. I will keep you guys posted on these things when I go on my next trip, especially the longer one in September. But I appreciate you guys listening and watching every single day. Again, if you like this kind of content, make sure you subscribe. And if you really like this one and you know somebody who travels a lot, does this kind of stuff, maybe struggles with jet lag a lot more, maybe send this to them, send this over to them so they can benefit from it. Again, appreciate you guys listening and watching, and I'll be talking to you soon.